What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Patriot Flex podcast. And in this episode, I'm about to get pissed off, right? So, Ben, what do we got today?
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, there was a mass shooting at a university, Michigan State, yesterday. And right now we have a little bit more details regarding the shooter. And we're not going to say his name, but you're going to see in the video that we're going to play that they're going to give a little more detail regarding this evil person. I was trying to think of the correct terminology, keep it clean. But we're going to give you our thoughts and review. Let's go.
All right, let's get into it. So this is a video about CNN titled, "What We Know About the Michigan State Shooter." So let's take a look.
Rage and reckoning in Michigan, that after a mass shooter leaves a killer's imprint on a large college campus. 3 are dead, 5 more wounded critically, after a gunman hunted students in 2 buildings at Michigan State. All of the casualties are students. The doctors trying to keep them alive, exhausted and emotional.
Can't forget we had general surgeons, cardiothoracic surgeons, neurosurgeons. Didn't get a lot of sleep last night, sir. So many people that just came in.
Throughout the morning.
Hey, yo, real quick, shout out to the doctors, man, because doctors and nurses and everybody else that works in the hospitals,
EMTs.
Yeah, they got to be around death and stuff. And that definitely probably does something to the brain to be around death like that so often, especially when there's people that they go to the hospital, maybe they have some kind of illness and they have to be seen for an extended period of time. These because all the doctors and nurses and stuff, they're all humans, so they get attached to their patients sometimes, and to see to lose a patient and stuff, I've heard it's a very difficult experience that they go through. So shout out to all the medical staff that was involved in this, and all the medical staff in general. But yeah,
it's a team effort.
It's a team effort.
Some new details about the ongoing CSI. Calls of shots fired came in a little before 8:30 last night. Police swarmed within minutes, followed by a flood of more panicked calls. Students spent hours locked down without knowing if their friends were dead or alive, and without knowing if the shooter might soon walk through their door. Today, police putting a name to the haunting images of a suspect, 43-year-old Anthony McCrae. Motive, though, is murky. The shooter, police say, never attended, never taught, and never worked at the school. Let's get straight to CNN Shimon Prokopez for the latest details. Shimon, what are we learning?
Right, and it appears he is from that area, John. So that's a significant clue for authorities. Perhaps he may have been to the area before, because when you look at the surveillance photo that police released, and then some of the information that they've been releasing, how he went from one campus or one building to the other building, there's some indication perhaps that he knew where he was going. The other significant information we're just learning from police there in Michigan State is that they have recovered a note they believe that was written by the shooter, which will hopefully, for them, shed some light perhaps on what happened here, perhaps describing some grievances that he may have had, some concerns that he may have had. But again, the motive here remains a mystery. Police saying this morning they're not any closer to knowing why he targeted this school. But this note certainly is going to be important for authorities as they work through motive and try to learn more about this gunman. What they have been doing, John, though, is that they've been talking to family members and others who know this gunman, who know the shooter. And it sounds like from their information from the families that certainly this was a troubled individual, a family member describing him as sort of secluded, kind of to himself. There was some trouble after his mother died, according to his father. So it sounds like for authorities, at least, they're learning more about the shooter here. And at some point, maybe, and we may not know ultimately what the motive is here, but certainly, we hope to hear more from authorities. Other thing very important here, obviously, for the victims, that community and what they're going through. All of the victims here, students of the school, the 3 dead, and 5 that remain in the hospital. And you could just see the emotion from the doctors, who see all sorts of trauma, see all sorts of issues to sort of give that kind of emotional statement and to talk about it in that way. It just tells you the effect this is having on the community.
Without a doubt. Shimon Prokopez, appreciate the live reporting to kick us off. Let's get some expertise now.
So who the fuck is this guy? Tell us.
The former Deputy Director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, and the former Homeland Security official, Juliette Kayyem. Andy McCabe, you listened to Shimon go through what we know so far, and there's a lot we don't know. But here, Anthony Dwayne McCrae, in 2019, arrested, charged with a felony for carrying a concealed weapon. He pleaded to a lesser charge, a misdemeanor, and once his probation was up, his probation ended in May 2021. So he had a gun charge on his record. May 2021 probation evolves. Then you hear his sister calling him isolated, his father calling him evil angry after his mother died. Why is the system still unable to connect this piece of information with this piece of information and say this man should not have a gun?
Sure. So it comes down, John, to those regulations that are enshrined in the Brady Act of 1993. That sets the parameters for how background checks are done for gun purchases.
Before we get into that, his father calling him evil angry cannot be connected to his gun charge, because in order for you not to be able to buy a gun because of your mental capacity or your mental state, a judge has to fill out paperwork that you are unfit to own a firearm. So this whole his dad said he was evil angry, his sister said he was like lonely or stayed alone or secluded or whatever. That's not gonna, because then I could just be like, hey yo, Ben seems kind of crazy. I think he might be dangerous, and then they just come and take all his stuff. Like, if you know what I mean, they just come or they put something on his record he can't buy a gun. That's a dangerous. What?
Well, I'm gonna ask you a question. Okay, is there any more of this video that you want to watch?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah,
just like a little bit more, right? But that's a dangerous thing to say, that like, oh, just because his dad said that he was evil angry, he shouldn't be able to buy a gun. Like, obviously he shouldn't be around firearms, because look at what he did, right? And the dude killed himself anyway, so it's not like he's going to be around firearms anymore. But when he says, why can't we connect these two pieces of information? Well, because just because one person says that you're evil angry, it's not going to stop. It's not legally, that's not enough, because a judge has to say this person has been evaluated by a mental health professional or some kind of a doctor, and they based on their recommendation, this person should not be able to own firearms. Boom, the judge signs it, and then you won't be able to buy a firearm then, right? So this reporter, maybe he's not into guns, maybe he's not educated on how this stuff works, right? I certainly don't know everything, but I do know that just somebody saying you're evil angry is not enough to keep you from buying a firearm. So they're actually going to say some pretty good stuff right now. So
Michigan is one of most states that relies on the FBI to conduct those background checks. In this case, on the facts that we know from the reporting about this man, the arrest for felony gun possession, had they convicted him of felony gun possession, might have prevented him from ever legally purchasing a firearm again. It looks like they pled that charge down to a misdemeanor, and a misdemeanor conviction is not enough to prohibit you from buying a firearm. It looks like it was a term in his probation that he was not allowed to have guns while he was on probation. But as you mentioned, he completed that term of probation. So essentially, after that date, he could, as mentally disturbed as he might have been, as angry and rage-filled as he might have been, he could walk into any federally licensed firearms dealer and purchase another gun.
And Juliette, you and Andy and I have had this conversation far too many times, both in your work in government and your work in the private sector. I
think that was I think he explained it very well. Mm-hmm. The guy got charged with felony possession. They pled it down to a misdemeanor. And he's right. A misdemeanor is not going to keep you from buying a firearm. I think the only misdemeanors that keep you from buying a firearm is if it's like a domestic violence type of thing, right? Because you can't, when you're going to buy a gun, you can't be a felon. You can't have domestic violence stuff on your record. You can't be labeled mentally unfit by a judge, stuff like that, right? So he did a very good explanation, right? This guy had he had problems with the law before because of firearms, but because they reduced that charge from a felony, when they do the background check through the FBI, it's not going to pop up, right? It's because he's not a felon technically, because they lowered the charge. So yeah, continuing.
You have worked on hardening these sites, on improving security on places that mass shooters targets. Let's just listen to one of the many survivors here. Listen to the fear.
This company didn't have deep observability from Gigamon. As a result, their cloud and
right when that first gunshot went off, I booked it to the far corner of the class.
Okay, yeah, he's just talking about what happened in there, but let's see.
50,000 students, 5,700 faculty, 5,200-acre campus. What can, and obviously in this case, what can't you do to make it safer?
Yeah, I mean, you're basically going to have some level of vulnerability. You're not going to be able to make these calls.
Here she just basically says, like, they did what they could. They did the best job that they could. It's a big campus. There's main roads that go through it. It's like a little city, They're fortifying the buildings, but, as a whole, the campus is...
Do they explain the gun laws in Michigan? Are you...
No, they don't explain any gun laws.
I wonder if you are able to conceal carry on campus.
Yeah, I don't know. That'd be something we'd have to look up. But in Texas, they passed a few years ago. I forget what the name of the law was, but you could carry a firearm on campus as a student if you got a concealed carry license. And then when they got rid of concealed carry licenses in Texas, they still kept the concealed carry license around. They didn't get rid of the concealed carry license. They got rid of the need to have one if you just want to carry out in public, like regular public, like you're going to Walmart or something, right? Like if you're just out and about, you want to carry, you don't need a license. You want to have it in your car, you don't need a license. But they still have the license to carry. You can still go and get one. Why? Because you need it for very specific reasons. And one of those reasons is if you want to carry on a college campus. So if you go to the university and you're a student and you want to carry your firearm with you, you have to have a license to carry in order to carry on campus. But once you leave campus, you can put that license away and you don't need it anymore. I mean, well, you don't have to have it on your person because you can carry out in regular public without a license. Now, some people are going to say that having more guns is not the answer. And they do say in this video that we have something like 200 or 120 guns for every 100 people. Mm-hmm. And they talk about how we have more than double the guns of Yemen, which is like the country with the most guns per capita besides us, right? And all that is just, it doesn't matter. I don't care about it. Obviously, this guy, it angers me because he got charged with a felony. They turned it into a misdemeanor. He then did his probation. He finished the probation, then went back and bought another gun legally, got his background check done or whatever. This is what they're making it seem like. Went to the store, filled out the paperwork, got his background check done, came out fine. They sold him the firearm. Then he goes, doesn't this dumb shit. And that pisses me off because now the story is going to be that, oh, the system we have is not good enough. We need to lock it down more. And then that's going to create more problems for gun owners in the United States. And it's going to up the tensions and we're all going to be bickering with each other all over again. And yeah.
So this is what I'm reading right now. This is
Michigan State Police.
Yeah. Michigan.gov. Individuals licensed to carry a concealed pistol by Michigan or another state are prohibited from carrying a concealed pistol or a portable device that uses electromuscular disruption technology.
So a taser?
A taser on the following premises. Okay. Schools or school property, but may carry while in a vehicle on school property while dropping off or picking up if a parent or a legal guardian. So I guess like if you're like a
So
friend,
basically you can't have it in the classroom, but you could have it in your car in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
What good does it fucking do you in the car? I think if somebody is of legal age and has their license and has all this stuff, like if they're able to carry out in public, they should be able to carry in their schools.
But this brings us back to that other situation that happened earlier in 2022 about that shooting, the active shooter that was going on in that mall. That mall was supposed to be a gun-free zone, so you weren't supposed to have a firearm in the first place.
Most guns most places that I go to, most malls that you go to, they're gun-free zones.
So you had an active shooter, and then you had a citizen with a firearm inside of the gun-free zone, and he was able to take out the active shooter.
Yeah, but see, when it comes to some people who carry firearms, they will see the gun-free zone sign. Mm-hmm. In Texas, we have a sign. We have two signs. One of them is called a 30-06. One of them is called a 30-07. Right? 30-06 prevents. It's the legal sign that prevents you from concealed carrying in a business. Okay. 30-07 sign is the legal sign that prevents you from open carrying in a business or a location. Okay. Right? So if you're walking up to this building and you see a 30-06 or 30-07 sign, then that means that you can't open carry or conceal carry, or both if you see both signs. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, generally, even if it's not the legal sign, you shouldn't carry in those places anyway, because once they, like, say you're open carrying and they tell you to leave, mm-hmm. then you have to leave legally. You have to get out of there, even if it's not the legal sign. But the thing is that some people who carry guns concealed, they will still go into a business or the mall or wherever it may be, even though they're not supposed to be carrying, right? Because they're like, hey, it's my life. I need to protect my life. If I'm going to go into this business, I need to protect my life. It's concealed. They can't see it. It doesn't hurt anybody, right? But if something pops off, I at least have my means to defend myself. And I get that way of thinking. But if a person goes into a mall that has the legal signage that you can't conceal carrying in there, and then something happens, somebody starts shooting, whatever, and you take out the shooter and you save everybody's life, does that open you up to getting sued because you broke the law? Could you face charges? You broke the law. You carried a gun where there was a legal sign that you're not allowed to carry guns. And yes, you saved everybody's life, but guess what? Now you're in court. And so
now,
I don't know, man. It's a tough.
No, I'm going to add on to that.
Yeah.
Right. So we've already laid the groundwork, right? So you're carrying concealed. There's no way that they're going to know, because
unless you have to use it.
Unless you have to use it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you have to think about the risk to reward. Okay. The risk is potentially getting sued or having some type of action taken against you. The reward is you get to keep your life.
Yeah, that's true.
Potentially.
Well, yeah, but also it's like you can end up in a situation where it's like maybe you can get out of there. You can get out of there just fine. The shooter's not looking at you. You can dip. But if you dip, everybody else in there is screwed. But you got the means to help out.
You got to take them out. So that shooting that happened at the school.
That's why I don't rock with gun-free zones.
So the shooting that happened here in Texas, like not too long ago, right? The one, it was huge in media because of how long it took for law enforcement to go in there and take the guy out. Right?
You talking about Uvalde?
That's correct. So I'm going to immediately assume that area is a gun-free zone. Even though it's in Texas, I'm going to assume that it's a gun-free zone. If you leave the...
Well, actually, all schools in Texas are gun-free zone.
Okay.
The universities you can carry at if you have a license, but the K through 12...
Now, that off-duty BP agent that went in there to get his kid, right?
Yeah.
So he willingly went in there with a firearm. It's a gun-free zone. I don't believe that he was on duty.
Hold on, but he's a Fed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they can like fly on airlines and shit. And
you know what? Okay, I get exactly where you're going with this. Let's take
he's not like a regular citizen.
Okay, makes perfect sense. I get where you're going. Let's just say that it was a regular police officer.
But he's a cop. He's not a citizen, just like a normal citizen. That's why I don't see how that would be the same. But okay, so it's a gun-free zone. He's off duty. He runs in there. He takes the dude out. Wait, did he take the dude out? He took the dude out, right?
I believe
so many different stories came out about that event.
No, I believe he was the one that took the guy out.
Yeah, and because he went in for his kid, because he was like getting a haircut or something, right? And they took like his barber's like shotgun or something with him. It was crazy. So many stories came out about that stuff. We don't even know what's right and what's wrong at this point. But, of course, the right thing to do in the situation, if you're carrying your gun in a gun-free zone, is to do what you can to minimize the loss of life. You know, it seems crazy to me that you're gonna label someplace a gun-free zone, but if something happens there,
you're going to want the people with the guns to go in there as quick as possible.
You're going to want the people in there that have guns to save you. But then you can potentially get them in trouble because they had a gun in a gun-free zone, even though they saved you.
Those laws only apply to people who give a damn.
Yeah, exactly.
About following the laws. Those laws do nothing to prevent someone that wants to cause you harm from going in there.
Every road in America has a speed limit sign.
How many roads do the speed limit?
That's it. Every road in America has a speed limit sign. And the only time people obey the speed limit is when they see a cop on the road. Yeah, you ever been on a highway and you see the cop and you just see everybody right behind him and they're not passing him?
Yeah. The slowest day on the highway is when a state trooper is on the scene.
Yeah,
right.
That's true. Yeah, but basically, screw this guy. This fucking shooter guy. I really hope he doesn't have blue hair when they finally put his picture out.
Oh, the shooter, they did put his picture out. Remember?
They did?
I think he was bald.
This one, the Michigan State?
Yeah, it was like a bald black guy.
Oh, okay.
Here's the thing. You don't really see too many black folk with like blue hair, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true.
But okay, so what I want to touch on is, what do you think that they could put into legislation to help mitigate the amount of mass shootings that happen here in the USA?
Well, that's a tough one when looking at
our culture.
It's a tough one when you look at this one that happened, because you're like, damn, he bought the gun legally. What kind of firearm was it? Was it like a handgun?
It was a pistol.
It was a pistol, right? So it wasn't like some huge, M249 military grade type stuff, It was a pistol. He bought it legally. He'd been in trouble before. He finished his probation. It's tough. But if he went through all the proper steps to get the firearm, But then they're making a big deal about his mental health situation. I think there's something to be said about how we're not letting men be men. Because, yeah, he lost a parent. Yeah, he's by himself. Whatever. But when people do things like this, it's because they've got no control of their emotions.
So essentially what you're saying is the pickup in mass shootings is because the culture has made it so that men aren't in control of their emotions, their feelings, as were our predecessors. That's what you're saying.
I think culture has a lot to do with how people, because culture is America's biggest export. It's America's biggest export.
Okay.
People all over the world listen to our music. They watch our movies.
Yes.
They pay attention to our politics. The entire world looks at the U.S. and we hardly ever give a damn about what's going on in other countries. But over time, we've had this like fight the patriarchy attitude that's been getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's been getting to the point where it's like feminism. Feminism was about empowering women, and it turned into just man hate, right? Like the OG feminists were fighting for real shit, right? It was like they want to vote. They want to own land. They want to be able to go to work. Like things that matter. And now feminism is like, we need to shit on men and have parades where we show our titties, right? So feminism is taking a weird turn. But now, since there's so much man hate, and then men, because we have to take personal accountability for our actions, right? We start moving different. We start acting different. And another thing is, right, you end up with I remember one comedian had a thing about it. He was talking about how old black people have a problem with, not old black people, but older black men have beef with younger black men. And they're like, why they got beef with us so much? Well, here's the thing. All these younger black men, we grew up in fatherless homes. So we were always around mom and grandma and whatever. And we became real sassy.
Yep.
It was like a joke that he was making, right? And so, but there's something to be said about that, right? Because if you're a young boy and you grow up without a father and you just always around like emotion, because you're always with your aunt, your sister, your mom, like it's always just females. They're just more emotional. And they like, you learn how to behave from the older people that are around you. There's somebody, you look up to them and you try to emulate them, right? Like it's the same thing that Charleston White was talking about on a podcast one time. He said that when he was young, he was watching, the rap scene on TV and this and that. And him and his friends, they looked up to these men because they didn't have fathers and they were trying to emulate them. And that's how they caught a murder charge, right? And so he said all his friends that had dads, they didn't fuck up. They were good. So the men messed up because we created a bunch of families that didn't have fathers in them. The women messed up because they picked the wrong dudes that they knew were bad for them. And again, you end up with a bunch of fatherless families. So then you make these kids grow up without fathers and they don't know how to move like men and act like men. Get into a stressful situation and be able to keep your calm. Have stuff crumbling around you and be like, this is fine. What's the move? How am I going to get out of this? Be analytical. Think. So then you end up with guys like this who have a lot of emotions, don't know how to deal with them. And then they act out and they go do some shit like this. And that's the problem.
I agree 100%. I think it's also a lot of the culture that's happened in the past few decades to where they try to protect the youth, protect their feelings. So I'm gonna give you two.
Yeah, you're coddling them, and it's dangerous.
So I'm gonna give you two prime examples. The first prime example is the everyone gets a trophy culture. All right, so you're preventing the child at a young, like you're preventing them at a young age from learning something that's very important, how to take an L and use that L to become a better individual and a better player. Okay, so you're taking that away from them. Okay, because you have to know how to lose in order to know how to become better so that you can eventually win.
Yeah.
And that's in regards to anything in life. So that's number one. Number two is the anti-bully culture. Look, in school, that's where you learn how to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
And by you trying to, well, you know, like bullying is a real thing. Bullying happens in school. Bullying happens at job. Bullying happens in your family. Bullying happens in your relationship.
I think bullying is okay as long as you're bullying somebody for something they can change.
But
yeah, it's like you can call me fat, but it's something I can change, right? Like I can eat salads and fucking work out, like you know.
But if they don't know how to take that, you know, and to move in those situations, then essentially you're producing a weaker individual.
Yeah, but that's why you're supposed to have a dad. And if you don't have a dad, you look for other men that can mentor you, right? So
ideally you want a dad.
Ideally, you want a dad. There's a different kind of connection, right? But you know, the thing is that for the young men out there that don't have fathers, right? Like they didn't make that decision, right? Like they just kind of live that life. So for them, it's like they got to find somebody who can kind of be more of a mentor or whatever, and you can learn from them. And a lot of people, or not a lot of people, right? But a lot of young men get that from their football coaches, or if they do martial arts, say they do jujitsu, maybe their professor there, whatever it may be. Maybe they take up boxing, some kind of a sport or activity. That coaching, it's kind of the same thing. It's somebody disciplining you. They're fucking making you train, right? You go to the competition, you win or you lose, you know, and a lot of that is it's very important for the development of a young man, because if you can't handle your emotions, you're gonna feel powerless. And if you feel powerless, you're looking for something so that you feel in control, so that you feel powerful. And then what do? You go grab a gun, because then you grab this gun, you hold it in your hand and you feel powerful. You feel that. And that's the problem. You put it down, they don't feel powerful. Think about the movie Friday. Remember the movie Friday? You remember when he's mad at Debo and he goes in his drawer and he pulls out his gun and his dad finds him? Right? That's a very important thing to have. Because he's like, if you think about it, he's about to make a fucked up decision. And his dad was there. And his dad's like, you feel like a man with that gun in your hand, don't you? Because he knows it's the same thing. It's a movie. We all laugh. It has jokes in it and stuff. But he's holding the gun. And his dad's like, you feel like a man with that gun in your hand, don't you? And Craig says back to him, I'm a man without it. And so he puts the gun away and he goes and he fights Debo, right? But the point is that his dad in the movie, his dad is the one that stopped him, right? Stopped him from making a stupid decision. Now, I don't remember if it was like one of those fake scenes where like, because remember he's pointing the gun at Debo and he fires it. But that was a fake scene.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. No. It was a real scene.
Was it?
The one where he fires it was not a real scene.
Yeah.
He put the gun, he gave the gun. He did point it at Debo, but he didn't fire it.
That's correct.
He put it away and then he fought him. Because he remembered his dad telling him this was all the protection we needed. You win some, you lose some, but you live to fight another day. That's what he told him.
Right.
So, and that's the mentorship that young men need, because they don't have that. You can tell, like in the movie, he doesn't know, he's processing, he's thinking about it. What do I do? This and that. The words came from his father. So as men, we need to do better to pick the right women to have kids with, so that we don't end up breaking up families and having kids that don't have a dad in the home. And if families break up, try to be in the kids' lives, try to mentor them, give them some sense of direction. Women, same thing. Pick the right men, pick better men. Shit happens, but also don't keep your kids from the dads because it's some kind of retaliation, because kids need a father. And yeah, it's just like, just altogether, we need to have better, just raise children a little bit better, raise them to be disciplined, raise them to be emotionally responsible. Because it's the same with those guys who, like, they always make jokes about the white boys named Kyle who punch holes through the wall. They're just not emotionally mature. They can't handle their emotions. That's dangerous. Those guys you need to be scared of, because they'll feel something and then react based off of their emotion and not think rationally. So there's a lot of things that are probably going to be suggested to do following this mass shooting, and we'll take a look at them as they come out, But I think this case is very similar to that one video I was showing you of the guy who used to make YouTube videos because he was mad at women because women didn't pick him.
That's right.
He was emotionally just immature. He didn't know how to handle his emotions, and that's why he ended up doing what he did. And I think it's the same for this guy here, right? I'm not saying that he's mad at women or whatever, but he's just mad because he can't handle his emotions, right? And that's what caused him to do what he did. And it's not a mental health crisis. It's not we need to give these people more Xanax. It's not we need to get everybody on antidepressants. It's none of that shit, right? Because that's what gets pushed also. Oh, it's a mental health crisis, epidemic, whatever. No, it's not. It's kids that need to get their ass whooped by their parents. And I don't mean that in like a domestic violence type way. I mean that in a discipline type way. Because there are parents who beat the shit out of their kids like that shouldn't, right? But they need discipline. They need direction. They need structure. They need these things so that they don't do things like this. That's what it is. It's not a mental health. Here's some antidepressants so you don't shut up at school. No, that's not what it is. Dude needs direction. And this dude had a mother and a father. And he lost his mother. And I guess he was like messed up about that. But yeah, something it's just, I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe he's consuming too much media. Maybe. I don't know what his life was like growing up or whatever, but that's what's wrong with this guy. He didn't know how to handle his emotions and he acted out. So prayers to those people that were shot, injured in the hospital. Hopefully they make as fast as a recovery and as good as a recovery as possible. Hopefully the students at Michigan State University, because there's going to be a lot of nervous students now going to that school following what just happened. I know if something like that happened and then I had to go to that school, I'd be like, going to class, can you focus on the lesson plan? Because you're just staring at the door. Like, is there going to be another one of these fuckers? But hopefully anybody that goes to Michigan State University and is a gun owner and is a responsible gun owner and can carry out in public, hopefully one day y'all get the opportunity to exercise your rights even when you're in class and feel protected and feel safe and feel like you have the ability to take your life and your personal protection in your personal safety into your own hands. So yeah, too bad they can't carry on campus, but maybe that changes one day. Who knows? I don't know what Michigan is like. Ben, anything else to add or?
Negative. I'll just say what I said before, that stricter gun laws is only going to hurt the law-abiding citizens, and it's going to do nothing for those who are actually looking to hurt people maliciously. But what do you guys think? Leave your comments in the comment section below. This has been Louise, Patriot Flex. Like, comment, but most importantly, share and subscribe. Pray for those that are in the hospital trying to recover. We'll catch you with the next one. Peace.
See you guys later.